a terrifying island prison, and tech giants that dominate its skyline. The city that is a gateway to the American West, which carries its motto, gold in peace, iron in war, with pride. This is the home of Silicon Valley and a wine industry that's become renowned around the world. A city of dramatic architecture, as you've never seen it before, transformed by night into a spectacle of light. 24 hours in the hills, shores, and streets of San Francisco. There's no better time to appreciate the stunning combination of water, hills, and land that surround the city of San Francisco than at 6 a.m. when the morning light just starts to bathe the glass-covered towers of its skyline. Today, a few of the city's earliest commuters are already making their way across the bay. And it won't be long before thousands more start filling the floors of skyscrapers like this one that drive this region's booming tech economy. But even before the sun is fully up, workers to the north, in one of the Bay Area's oldest industries, are already hard at work with their hands on the land here in the winemaking region of Napa. Every morning, they labor for hours in the pre-dawn darkness with headlamps. These are just a few of the thousands of grape pickers who have helped make Bay Area vineyards some of the biggest and most famous producers of American wine. At this vineyard, called Promontory, workers pick every bunch of Cabernet grapes by hand, the old-fashioned way. People began planting commercial vineyards in Napa in the mid-1800s. Today, the state produces more than 80% of all American wine. Much of it comes from the more than 100,000 acres of vineyards under cultivation here in Napa and Sonoma counties. During harvest season, in the summer and fall, much of the hard labor required to make wine is finished by the time the sun is up. But by now, millions in and around San Francisco are just starting their brutal commute. The 5 westbound lanes of the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge are already packed. San Francisco itself has a population of 870,000 people, but it isn't the Bay Area's largest city. That distinction belongs to a city in the South Bay called San Jose, which has a population of more than 1 million. The third largest city in the Bay Area is Oakland, which sprawls across the East Bay, just south of Berkeley. And there are dozens more large towns and cities all around San Francisco, which is why the total population of the Bay Area is more than 7 million. But a big part of what makes the morning commute into San Francisco so tough is the unique geography of the city. San Francisco is essentially an island because it's surrounded by water on 3 sides. The only way to get into the city from the east and north is to travel over the bay by bridge, under it by train, or across it by ferry. This is the second largest ferry system on the West Coast, after Washington State. It's one of the oldest forms of public transportation in the Bay Area. In the late 19th century, there weren't bridges across the bay, so this was how most people traveled into the city from the east and north. And it's also why San Francisco built its now iconic ferry building on the docks here in 1898. It was designed to impress, since this was the building that welcomed every person who arrived by ferry to San Francisco. When new bridges, like the Golden Gate Bridge, were completed in the 1930s, workers could suddenly drive into the city from the east and north for the first time, and that caused many ferries to go out of business. Today, Gridlock on the bridges that span the waters of the bay is putting San Francisco's historic ferry routes back in business. But one group of young workers who live in San Francisco skip the bridges and ferries. They start their day lining up on residential street corners like this one. These are a few of the thousands of tech workers who make a southbound commute every day to Silicon Valley. They're waiting for free buses that will deliver them to the tech giants where they work. Today, with so many tech buses filling the city's streets morning and night, many residents have complained that they block traffic and tie up public bus lanes. The buses also have become symbols of the economic divide in San Francisco and the role tech wealth plays in the Bay Area's rapidly rising cost of living. Silicon Valley's tech giants simply couldn't survive without these thousands of workers. All morning long, they arrive at Hacker Way, the home of Facebook. Nearby, at Google, workers are dropped off on the vast campus that's known as the Googleplex. And over in Cupertino, they pull in one after the next at Apple. And at the new $5 billion Apple headquarters, a giant spaceship-like structure that's big enough to accommodate up to 14,000 employees. With 7,000 new trees on its campus and enough solar panels on its roof to generate 8 megawatts of electricity, Apple's new headquarters claims that it can run entirely on renewable energy. But with all its servers, computers, and large corporate campuses, Silicon Valley still needs a lot of old-fashioned electricity to keep it running. And that's why teams of linemen like these are always busy morning to night in the Bay Area, making sure the power will stay on through storms, quakes, and even wildfires. Today, they're stringing new, more powerful lines in the hills east of Oakland. Time is money on big projects like these, and it's faster and cheaper to fly the parts these linemen need right to the towers, rather than trying to get trucks and crews to carry them over land. But that also applies to the workers themselves. It's faster and cheaper just to pick them off the ground, whisk them through the air, and then drop them right on the pole where they need to work. Being an aerial lineman has to be one of the most thrilling jobs in the world. When you're racing through the air, over the treetops below, and getting paid to do a job that keeps the lights on for millions. But every day, all kinds of workers and crews can be spotted in the skies around San Francisco. Nearby, a flight crew is preparing to lift off at a joint military and civilian airport called Moffett Field. They belong to the 129th Rescue Wing of the Air National Guard. The 129th is specially trained to conduct rescue missions around the world. Their C-130P models are designed to be able to refuel a wide range of Navy planes in midair. But Moffett is also home to NASA's Ames Research Center. This enormous screen is the intake vent of the world's largest wind tunnel. It's part of a jet propulsion lab that was built at the start of World War II to study how various aircraft respond to wind and other forces when they fly. Flight simulators here provided training for almost every pilot of the Space Shuttle program. But from the air, the most impressive sight here at Moffett is a towering steel skeleton called Hangar 1. It was built in 1932 to house the U.S. Navy's largest flying machines, enormous helium-filled dirigibles called Sky Cruisers. The largest were more than 7 times the length of this 98-foot-long C-130. But Sky Cruisers weren't safe. In 1933, one named the Akron crashed off New Jersey's coast. 73 Navy airmen died, including Admiral William Moffett. for whom this field was later named. After years of neglect, Hangar 1 is finally being restored. And whenever air crews from the 129th lift off from Moffett Field, they are helping keep the rich aviation history of the Bay Area alive.